It is my great pleasure to introduce to you Oliver Jeffers. Oliver began his career designing window installations at bookstores in Ireland, and he is now the very successful author-illustrator of many beloved books for children, including The Incredible Book-Eating Boy, Lost and Found, How to Catch a Star, Stuck, This Moose Belongs to Me, and the Hueys series. He's also the illustrator of the #1 New York Times bestseller, The Day the Crayons Quit. Which has been on the New York Times bestseller list for 100 weeks and counting. Oliver Jeffers balances his book projects with designing album covers, U2's Ordinary Love, and contributing to fine art institutions Fabergé's Big Egg Hunt. This fall, the crayons are back with The Day the Crayons Came Home. Here to tell you all about it is Oliver Jeffers.
Hello, I'm Oliver, and this is what I look like. Well, I took a guess what the podium was going to be. I suppose I couldn't have been wrong, actually. But a lot of people are actually very disappointed that I don't really look like this because of the pictures at the back of my book. But you can probably tell from the way that I talk that I'm not from around here. No, that's because I'm from Brooklyn, which is all the way over on the other side of the East River, for those of you who don't know. Well, I live in Brooklyn, but I'm not actually from there either. I'm Irish. And how we have come along, people often forget that the Irish were the bottom rung of the ladder over here. And it's not cool to be Irish. And we were the bottom rung of the ladder until the Italians showed up. But even worse than that, I am Northern Irish. I'm from Belfast. And we're still stigmatized all over England. But I suppose we did try to blow them up for 30 years, so maybe they have a point. For those of you who don't know where Belfast is on a map, I'm the sort of visual person. I'm going to give you visual aids today. First of all, let's get our bearings. This is a map. That big glowy ball there is the sun. That one there is Earth. That's where all the Wi-Fi is. And it's not to be mistaken for any of the other planets. And Northern Ireland is right around there. Here's a close-up view. There's lots of walls all over Belfast, and that's to keep us apart. It's that whole Catholic prod thing. I was raised a Catholic, and scandalously, I married a Protestant. And back there, they called that a mixed marriage. Although these days in Ireland, thanks to the marriage referendum last week, a mixed marriage is now probably considered, a mixed marriage is probably considered to be between a man and a woman, which is a great step forward. I'm very proud of Ireland for showing the world the way towards equality. But being raised a Catholic in Belfast meant that you had to be an altar boy. You had to serve your time, and serve my time I did. And boy, did that end in flames. Literally. I had one job to do one Sunday, which was follow the priest out with a candle and set it beside the altar. And I was doing my job very well. I was like, set the candle beside the altar, set the candle beside the altar. And about 4 steps to go, I was like, ooh, I wonder who's playing football tonight. Started daydreaming, and then was still thinking about that when I noticed a slight orange glow kind of coming from right in front of me. And to my horror, I had set the candle way too close to the altar, and those cloths that they put over, they covered them in starch. And the thing just went up like a tinderbox. And me being the tender age of 9 years old was like, well, how do you put out a fire? You blow on it. So I started blowing on it. It only served to fan the flames all the way across the top of the altar and up the other side. And everybody just froze. Nobody knew what to do, apart from an old gentleman sitting in the front row who ran up and grabbed a bucket of holy water, which apparently has extra extinguishing capabilities, and put it out. And the best part of it all is that it was Easter Sunday. But I was terrified. I was convinced I was going to be in so much trouble. And when I got home, my dad surprised me by saying, you know what, son, don't worry about it. Let's face it, you're not going to be professionally religious. My dad has always been pretty wise. He's always said lots of very wise things, imparted great wisdom onto me. That's something that he said. That's my dad. And my mum was pretty wise too. Yep, she had some real pearls of wisdom, but she was also the sort of person that whenever you asked her what was for dinner, she would say, shite and parsnips. So that's my mum. They were both great storytellers, and this was said an awful lot in our house when we were growing up. I grew up surrounded by storytellers, from grannies in the sitting room to uncles in the pub to all my cousins and all sorts. I come from a big family. Actually, my grandparents' 70th wedding anniversary, which happened only. No, it was their 60th wedding anniversary this happened at. They got all of the family together, all 8 children, 16 grandchildren, and 23 great-grandsons. And everybody was milling about in the back garden trying to get their photograph taken. And my younger brother, Brian, went into the kitchen to go to the bathroom. And there he saw my granny and granda sitting in the kitchen looking out in the back garden. And he overheard my granda say, "Dear God, Kathleen, look what we've created." That's what you get for not having a television. So there was lots of us, and my granddad, Tommy, could not remember any of their names. So that's me, by the way, and that's my younger brother, Brian. But my granddad, Tommy, could not remember any of his children, grandchildren, or great-grandchildren's name, and so just called every one of us Huey, regardless of the gender, and that's where I came up with a name for the Hueys. So yes, I have a large family, and storytelling is in our blood, and I now make a living from telling stories. They are all true stories. I will revert your attention back to an earlier statement. But actually, Lost and Found, my second book, is based on a true story. Belfast Zoo is one of the largest in Europe, and a school group about 20 years ago went to the zoo, and one little kid managed to break away from the group, climb into the penguin enclosure, and climb out again with a baby penguin under his arm. And he got the whole way home before anybody realized it was missing. And he had to keep it in the bathtub overnight until the man from the zoo could come the next day. But when I was promoting the book, I decided to recreate scenes from the book using photography, and unbelievably, Belfast Zoo let me back into the penguin enclosure with my nephew Henry. So yeah, there you go. It's clear where my love of storytelling came from, but where my love of drawing came from, I'm not entirely sure, because neither of my parents were particularly artistic. But I started out with a lot of promise. This was made when I was 6 months old. A genius, my parents called me. But then I didn't really progress very much for a long time after that. This was made when I was 16 years old. But that's because it was before I went to art college. And then I went to art college and I studied form and function and light and shadow and perspective and art history and all these important things. And now, after a 4-year art college education, I draw like this, which is so much better. Although people do ask me all the time whether I can still draw feet. Let the record show that, yes, I actually can draw feet, although I can't count toes very well. Most of my drawings are done in pencil, medium pencils for medium drawings. If I'm going to do a very small drawing, I'll use a very small pencil, and then if I have to do a really big drawing, I'll crack out the really big pencil. But recently I've rediscovered the love of drawing in crayons because of a little book called The Day the Crayons Quit. And because my drawings are so realistic, and the drawings in the book are supposed to be done by a 7-year-old, I was having a little difficulty trying to remember what it was like to draw when I was that small. So I got a bit of help. I asked some of my nephews and kids' friends to help out with some drawings for that book, and some of them were so good that I had to put them in the final book. And if you look closely at the tree in the right-hand corner here, that is actually done by my then 6-year-old nephew. And I wanted to give him a credit, but because of child labor laws, I wasn't actually able to. That's not a lie. But anyway, The Day the Crayons Quit had a great run, but it's about to be usurped by its sequel, this time with added saltiness. These books are unusual because I didn't write them. I mean, you know what? Technically, I did write them. Any handwriting expert will tell you that that's my handwriting the whole way through the book. But Drew Daywalt, to give him credit, did tell me what to write. Normally, I'm solely responsible for the picture books that I make, and that I write them and illustrate them myself. This is what my bookshelf looks like. And given that I both write the words, which looks like that, and draw the pictures, which looks like that, I often get asked which I do first. And the answer is that I do them both at the same time, which looks like that. Actually, one time I was at a school in Utah, and one small kid did ask, which do you do first, the pictures or the stories? And I says, well, I do them both at the same time. And they went like this. Wow. I didn't have the heart to tell them otherwise. Though that is not the best question I've ever been asked by a kid. That would definitely be this letter I was sent. Dear Oliver Jeffers, what is your name? It frankly doesn't get any better than that. So here's a bit of a confession that I want to make, that people assume that as someone who makes books that are primarily enjoyed by children, that is a child, that I try to figure out what goes on inside a kid's head and try to assimilate it with what happens out there in the real world, whereas the truth is I don't fully understand what happens out there in the real world, and I don't think anybody really understands what goes on inside a kid's head. So I don't really try to worry too much about the sorts of stories that I think kids want to hear these days. That's still a child. But instead, I try to just tell the sort of stories that I think I want to hear. That's me. And as I just pointed out, I have a hard enough time coping with what goes on out there, and I've also given up trying to understand what happens inside my own head years ago. And because of that, I do not really aim my stories at children. Don't worry, the tank is an analogy for stories here. Instead, I try to aim the stories at myself. Also another analogy, just in case you're worried about me. My books are more like buckshot in that they're aimed at anybody who they're put in front of, from 1 to 100. But enough of the violence. But I also realize that I'm not the only person who thinks like this. The great Morris Sendak said, I don't write for children, I write, and somebody says that is for children. Also, C.S. Lewis says, anyone who writes down to children is simply wasting his time. And little known fact, but C.S. Lewis is also from Belfast. Although I don't think there was as many walls whenever he was there. But to deviate for a second, another question I get asked an awful lot is that because I also make some fine art, which looks like this, and I make maps, a cartographer, and sometimes I make drawings for myself, just for the fun of it. And also, I sometimes make short films. Here, this is 1 minute long. Oh, I have to press the button first.
This is the universe. These are some planets. And this one is the Earth. It's the world on which you live, along with 7 billion other people. But there's a whole other world you don't see. This is the world of extreme poverty. In this world, over 1 billion people live on less than $1.25 a day. This is not right. But there is good news. If we go back to 1990, there were many more people living in a world of extreme poverty. In 1990, over 40% of people lived there. But in just 20 years, the world of extreme poverty has halved. Now here's the incredible bit. If we keep going, then by the time we get to 2030, we could have almost no people living in this world of extreme poverty. This is very good news. But we're not there yet. To get there, we need you, and we really need your voice. Let's bring everyone back to this world. Join one.
So now, because I do all of these different things, thank you. A question I get asked a lot is, what is my average day like? And I like to visually problem solve, so I thought if I can add up all the things I do over the course of a year and divide it by 365, I could definitely show you my average day. So I went about doing that, and I quickly realized that it only served to make me look really, really disorganized. I don't know if you can read any of these. Do you want me to read them out to you very quickly? So let's see, answering emails, writing lists, crossing things off lists, ignoring lists, drinking tea, drinking coffee, eating food, watering plants, thinking, staring, drawing, gluing, misspelling, cutting, eBay, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, going to the bathroom, checking blogs, quoting made-up articles in the New York Times, airport security, gets the largest section, cleaning brushes, cleaning myself, talking business on the phone, talking shite on the phone, moving things around, delegating, feeling pleased with myself. But then I thought if I go about it from another tact, I could show that I'm actually fairly well organized. So I went about doing that and my average year, but I quickly forgot what I was doing, and I realized that nobody really likes pie charts anyway. So instead, how would you like to see me draw some pictures very briefly before we move on? With the wonders of modern technology, I'm going to tell you a story and draw you a picture. So as I said, all of my stories are true stories. So this is about a friend of mine called Henry. And the wonderful thing about Henry, what made him so interesting, is that, oops, sometimes hard to draw with this, that Henry loves books. Not the way that you and I like books. No. Henry did not like books like that. Henry actually loved to eat books. It happened quite by mistake one afternoon when he wasn't paying attention. He tried a single word just to test. Yes, he definitely liked them. Next, he tried a whole sentence. He still liked it, followed by the rest of the chapter. And by the end of the week, he had eaten a whole book. And by the end of the month, Henry could eat a whole book in one go. And he became known as the incredible book-eating boy. But here's the best part. And to show you this, I need to draw an anatomical diagram of inside Henry. So that's his brain cavity, and that's his brain. And then there's his stomach. So the more books that Henry was eating, there's a book, into the mouth it goes. All of the pages will go down into his belly to fill him up, and all of the information will go up into his brain, and he would get smarter. Henry loved being smart, and he thought if he kept going, he might even become the smartest person on earth. And he kept eating books. He kept eating them, any type of book at all. He wanted to know everything. He went from eating them one at a time to eating them 3 or 4 at a time, and he kept getting smarter and smarter and smarter, until the day it all started going horribly wrong. To show you how it was going horribly wrong, I need to draw you another anatomical diagram. So that's inside Henry's head again. First of all, he realized that he was eating too many books. So his belly looks like that. And all of the information in his head was getting mixed up, which looks like that. And it was coming out all over the place. 2 + 2 = Poland. That definitely was not right. Henry didn't feel so smart anymore at all. More than one person told him that he should not eat books anymore. So he sat sadly in his room for a long time, not entirely sure what to do. But then one day, and again, quite by accident, Henry picked up a half-eaten book from the floor, but instead of opening his mouth and shoving it in, Henry opened it up and began to read, and it was so good. Henry discovered that he loved reading, and now he reads all the time. He reckons that if he keeps going, he still might be able to become the smartest person on the earth. It just might take a little bit longer, although he did miss his old life on the road. So it wasn't very long before he took his tuxedo out of the cupboard, brought it to the dry cleaners, and resumed his persona, but this time as the incredible broccoli-eating boy. The end. And everything else you need to know about me, you will find in this.
I'm Oliver Jeffers.
Thank you.
This is my job. I draw pictures and tell stories. I use all different sorts of stuff to make my pictures, whatever really is the best way to tell that story. I have all these stories in my head, and I have to get them out into the world. So I will tell stories to anyone who's listening.
Once upon a time.
I get my ideas from everywhere, which is why I always carry a pencil and a piece of paper. It can get pretty rough sometimes.
Oliver Jeffers, ladies and gentlemen. Talk about your mixed media.
Funding for Bookview Now is provided by the Wincote Foundation.